Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be returning to the Tier 8 Premium German battleship Odin. Before I start though, I want to highlight that anyone who won any prizes in my 100k Twitch giveaway, those prizes have been handed out now. So the ships, all of them that is. So if you won anything, the ship should be waiting for you in game. The next giveaway we'll aim for is of course the 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and hopefully I can this time give away a bunch of ships to you guys as well. Moving on though. The Odin has been through a fair bit of controversy lately, namely that they changed the fuse time. The fuse arming time on the AP shells was changed from 0.01 to 0.033 seconds. That means that basically Odin lost its short fuse. The reason Wargaming Game was because Odin and Aegir were excessively effective against lightly armored cruisers and destroyers. I didn't quite see this, and now of course it means that, well, you get a whole lot more overpens even when shooting angled ships if they're not giving you that thick armor to arm those shells on. The other significant change is of course that they nerfed the health pool of the Odin. And good lord did they nerf the health pool. It used to have 62.7k health, now it has 52.8k health. That is no small nerf when you consider that the Kongo, the Tier 5 IJN battleship, has 54,000 health. So the Odin actually has less health than a Tier 5 IJN battleship. The armor is of course still very strong though. Odin's armor scheme has always been very good. It's got a 32mm nose with a 60mm icebreaker, that is the lower part of the nose, which prevents you from being citadeled through the nose by the likes of Yamato and Musashi. Deck armor is 50, upper belt 45, and it's got a pretty hefty armor belt of 320mm, and the citadel is protected by the German turtleback, which means you are in fact very hard to citadel. The turrets are fairly tanky. They do get knocked out occasionally, well, not permanently. I haven't actually lost one permanently a single time. And of course, you do have a fair bit of superstructure that can be farmed. But in terms of armor, the ship is very tanky. However, it only has a 22% torpedo protection, and this game, where the enemy has 4 DDs, means that I'm gonna have to be on my toes and dodge every single torpedo. Because with 52.8k health and a 22% torpedo belt, torpedoes are brutal. Eating, for example, the Asashio that's sailing around, if I eat one of his torps, they hit for what, like 20k or something? Even with the reduction, it's gonna take, with just one torpedo is probably gonna take away a third of my health. So Odin has become exceptionally vulnerable to torpedoes and of course carriers. Carrier AP bombs, they really hurt because you have so little health to mitigate it with. Torpedoes really hurt for the same reason, and this is pretty damn frustrating when you consider that, well, the Odin as a gun platform is actually pretty poor. The penetration, well, I can put up a graph for you guys. This is showing you Amagi, NC, Bismarck, and then of course Odin penetration. Actually, you know what? I don't even need to do that. This thing has Alaska penetration. That is the same penetration as the Tier 9 American super cruiser Alaska. The same 305mm guns. However, you of course do not have Alaska's dispersion. You do not have Alaska's improved pen angles. You do not have Alaska's great firing angles. In fact, the back turret on the Odin is really painful to use, as you can probably see as I'm trying to swing the ship around to make use of that back turret. And when you do finally land, well, when you finally do get to use all your guns, the shell travel time is okay. The shells are fairly light, so they lose velocity fairly quickly, and you have a tendency to get a fair bit of overpens, unless you land those perfect citadel shots, which with the dispersion is very hit and miss indeed. In this case, the Fiji kept going in a straight line, and I do manage to snipe him out with a double citadel. The big issue is, of course, well, I need to highlight the AA is trash. You throw up something like 5 flak with a 75% accuracy, so even a carrier flying in a straight line is probably not even gonna die to your flak. So the AA is just a complete joke. And this really is a significant issue because now that they've nerfed the health pool, because you're very, very vulnerable to carriers because of the strikes and because of the AP bombers. You're very vulnerable to DDs. Because of the poor firing angles, you have to give a fair bit of broadside if you actually want to use all your guns, which exposes your broadside. You won't get citadeled, but the damage you eat is so punishing because of the very, very limited health pool. Now the Odin does fairly well when you get to play top tier, as I'm playing this game. Especially if you manage to basically dodge every single torpedo and make use of those guns and survive long enough to shoot things at these fairly short ranges as I'm doing here, which is 9-10 kilometers. However, the second Odin gets up tiered, it becomes such a painful experience. Venezia shows up, Venezia slaps you, he's got 54mm sap pen, so your 50mm deck and 45 upper belt doesn't really do anything. So he slaps you for, what, 12k sap? That's a fifth of your health gone. And there's not really much you can do about it. You do have great concealment. Odin does have fantastic concealment of something like 12 kilometers, but the air spotting is 8 kilometers, and as anyone who plays high tier these days knows, carriers are very common. And of course, if you want to be shooting in this ship, well, then you're gonna be spotted quite often. And if a single torpedo, Hakuryu AP bombers, like Hakuryu AP bombers with a single strike can hit you for 25,000. When you got 52k, that's half your health pool in a single good strike. This health pool nerf wouldn't be such an issue for the Odin if it wasn't for the fact that as a gun platform, it is very poor. The guns are not reliable. 305mm guns with German dispersion, even though, well, they kind of changed German dispersion, even then it's not good. Combined with the 20-second reload, the poor firing angles, no improved penetration angles. I mean, even flat angles like that, I can't really get the citadel, but at least we do have the classic German torpedoes, so I can take out that NC that way. And I played this very well, and I am fairly well, and I've only really taken about, what, 20k, 25k damage. But the problem is, because you don't have a super heal, fast reloading heal or whatever, that means I'm already down to half HP. The Odin can be very tanky if you get opportunities to disengage, but if you don't, you can get chipped down very quickly. In fact, because the ship is so very brawling oriented, you have the Hydra, you have the torpedoes, and you have the turtleback, and mostly the guns really need you to be right next to them in order to land any of the shells. Because of all these things, you're forced to push in. And being forced to push in a ship like this is so very brutal. I'm expecting torps for the Scharnhorst, I'm also expecting torps from the Galissonier. So I'm turning a left to get my torp angles in on the Scharnhorst. The torp angles aren't, by the way, really that good. Turning left means I dodge the Galissonier and Mogami torps that I expected to see. Now I'm gonna start turning harder right again because I expect the Scharnhorst to have torp me as well, which is what he has. So I've actually managed to dodge every single torpedo, even though there's been quite a few of them throwing torps at me, and I do manage to land my own in return on the Scharnhorst. However, it's just not quite enough. He's gonna drop another set of torps, I shoot his point blank broadside. We do 10k damage. The damage is decent, but with the fires burning, I don't have damage con ready. You don't have any fast acting damage con. The torpedoes from the Scharnhorst don't even have time to catch me because the fire burns me out. The health pool is the issue. It really is that simple. When I first reviewed this thing, I called it a promising German premium. And that was because the combination of that short fuse allowed you to do, even if you didn't land citadels, you still got somewhat consistent pen damage. This game, by the way, my Benson is in their spawn, my Kagero is on their flank, and my Richelieu has reversed into our spawn. And even though I've killed a third of their team, this is still a complete stomp. Sadly, a lot of these games these days tend to be like this. I feel like sometimes it doesn't even matter what I do. The games are just such complete stomps regardless. I can't recommend Odin anymore. I thought it was a really promising premium. I thought it was gonna be the next Tirpitz, the next like really big German premium, but 52.8k health just isn't enough. If you want to give this thing 50, like the thing is, Wargaming knows it isn't enough. They absolutely know it isn't enough. I mean, look at the ships that they intend for brawling, like the Tirpitz, the Bismarck. These are also supposed to be brawling battleships, and these have what, 69k health. Even in higher tiers, we have Kremlin, that's supposed to push in 100k health, massive torpedo belt, massive armor, or Grosse Kurfürst, used to be the healthiest ship with great armor as well. They are well aware that in order for a ship to be able to push in, it needs to have significantly more health than other ships. Especially since Odin as a gun platform is so terrible. 305mm guns can't overmatch anything. In fact, the cruiser can park nose in or slightly angle towards you, and you will struggle to deal any damage whatsoever to him. You don't have improved pen angles, you don't have the aura match, so the best bet you can have is rushing him and hoping he doesn't just sail away, kite you and farm you. In fact, being kited and farmed with Odin is a very, very real threat and very effective counter against that. So Wargaming obviously knows this ship needed that health in order to be effective, and they took it away. I don't understand why. Maybe the spreadsheet told them that this would be an effective way to reduce its effectiveness. Well, it absolutely is, because if you don't have the health to push, you have to play at that range, and having to play the Odin at range is a really, really terrible experience. So, well done, I guess. You did, in fact, manage to kill the Odin. Clap. This game ended 211,000 damage, 8 torpedoes, 4 kills, 4 citadels. By no means a standard Odin game. This is, of course, this was kind of like the perfect storm where not only were we top tier, I also managed to juke and dodge every single torpedo, which is what allowed me to showcase what could have been, what the Odin really could have been. But in reality, those situations, of course, happen quite rarely. Team score wise, well, 1.7k base. My team didn't really show up to this battle, and it ended up being quite one-sided stomp, as many games these days do. Detailed report wise, 1.8 million potential tanked, so it does show the armor. As long as there's none of those nasty things like torpedoes, carriers, or just you being crossfired. Like, I mentioned a lot of these bad things, but obviously when you're pushing into brawl in this thing, there will come situations when you will be crossfired. And because of that heavy broadside belt, and heavy armor, and of course the fact that you have a turtleback, this thing, just like Bismarck and Tirpitz, even though it can't be citadeled, it still eats full penetrations. Which of course means that, well, whatever NC shooting your broadside can easily hit you for 20-25k AP, as long as it gets that broadside shot in. And then you shoot back and you can't pen his belt. Can be a bit frustrating. AP 123, surprisingly well. 75k torpedoes. Secondaries, they did chip in the sense that they finished off the Sasha, which was quite important. And damage taken, a mix of AP, HE, and not really too much fires, because of course I'm running a very fire prevention heavy build. In fact, I can show you guys my build. I'm sorry if I sound a bit defeatist going over this ship, but Odin was one of the ships I was really looking forward to. Odin was one of the ships that I was quite hyped for. It was a tanky brawling ship. It wasn't easy to play. Even with the old health pool, it wasn't that easy to play, because in order to truly be in any way effective in the ship, you really had to push in and get into it. And I think ships that encourage brawling are fun. There should be more of this. Less of the Smolensk type ships where you sit 19 kilometers away, smoke up and farm anything that moves, but and then everyone hates fighting you. But more of these, you push in and brawl and you create action and chaos, and it's fun. It's fun. But Wargaming didn't like the fun. Right, let me show you guys my recommended build for this thing. Alright, as usual, let me start with the modules. Consumable wise, premium damage con, premium heal. Not really, because you're really gonna work through all 5 of these. Unless, well, in rare cases, most of the time you die before you get to use all of them, especially if you're trying to push in and brawl. If it turns out to be some sort of long slugfest, you might be able to get through all 5. Now, the reason why you run premium repair is so you have a faster cooldown on it. And Hydro, of course. Hydro is very useful, and this thing you can absolutely run through quite easily, just running it as a preventive measure, because as I mentioned, that 22% torpedo protection means that you really can't eat any torpedoes. Is that actually one of the worst? What does NC have? NC has... Oh, NC has 19, that's worse. Then of course the likes of Amagi is 43, Alabama is 49, Massachusetts is 46. What's Lenin? 22. So it's the same as Lenin's. Of course, the difference is Lenin excels at range and can overmatch things. Odin does not. Moving on, spotter plane. So increase your somewhat gimped range, and of course the ability to spot around islands, which is useful when pushing into brawl, and just being able to shoot into smokes as well. Upgrade wise, turret, and more importantly, torpedo survival. That's really what we're going for here. I haven't really lost turrets much, but torpedoes can absolutely be knocked out quite easily because they are in a fairly vulnerable position, especially if you're sailing away and someone is shooting HE on your stern. These things have a tendency to break. Hydro duration. Torpedoes are the devil for this thing. You need it. Better dispersion. It doesn't help much, but hey, we'll go for it. Faster rudder shift, because ultimately you do want to get in there and you do want to cause chaos. And concealment, because being stealthy, ambushing is great, and if you do have to disengage, this will help you significantly. Captain build wise, priority target, adrenaline rush, superintendent, concealment expert. Actually go fire prevention first, then go concealment expert. Faster turret traverse. I think, what was the turret traverse? You ended up with something 26.9 with this, but this is mostly because your back turret, the firing angles are so terrible. I do like expert marksman on the ship, and there's not really much better things to spend it on. Expert loader. Your AP can't overmatch anything, so you will have to switch to AP when ships are pushing nose in towards you. And of course, faster consumable usage. Flag-wise, faster heal, fire reduction, flooding reduction, speed, faster consumables. AA, I guess I do have the ramming flag. You become the final torpedo yourself. Those are probably the most important ones. Sorry if I sounded a bit down about the Odin, but I am very saddened by this change. I'm very saddened by this change because unlike many of these other battleships many of the other battleships don't really need to have as much health because they are very workable long-range gun platforms. Like a Massachusetts, even if you can't get into secondary range, the main guns are quite good. They're 406mm good pen, they can overmatch a ton of things. You can blap things across the map quite comfortably with American guns. So it doesn't really need health in the same way. Odin has to get close to become effective. So neutering the health was really... It really was the ultimate, I don't know, nail in the coffin. If you don't have health, you can't push in a brawl, and then you have to play the Odin more safe. And if you have to play the Odin more safe, then it's neither effective nor fun. Fun is cancelled, I guess. This is of course just my opinion. I'm sure there will be other people who will have other opinions, but I'm just very saddened to see this because I was so looking forward to this thing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, thank you guys for the support. I do really appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. And of course, we are grinding for that 100k goal. So thank you for everyone chipping in. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great one.